they say the Korean version of the N word to like black people.
Yeah, and
they're like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, they're like, 감독 그냥 감동인데요? You're just sitting there like, that's racist. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Korea Unfiltered. The fashion in the studio is fashioning, guys. I thought I looked good. Wait till y'all see today's guest. He came dapper. He came with the fashion. Looks like he just came from work. I feel very casual. I feel so casual.
Because I saw one episode where there was this guy with all black.
I think that was Sean.
Yes,
maybe?
I mean he was very fashionable, obviously.
Yeah.
But I also saw your comment saying that why do everybody, like most people, a lot of people wear black.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, first of all, introducing
yes.
Kyle. Woo!
Hi.
First of all, that's true. You do have a lot of color on compared to most
And I did
Korean.
see the green on the background as well, so I tried to go a little.
We
green
love
today.
a guest who thinks. Kyle is thinking before coming on the show. I do love your fashion, actually. I was gonna compliment you as soon as you walked in. I was like, I'm gonna hold it for the show. I'm gonna hold it for the show. I love what you're wearing. It's
Appreciate
giving.
it.
Are you into fashion usually?
No, not really. I mean, I like looking good
Yeah.
for for business, for people and everything.
yeah.
But not lately. But I
Yeah.
like looking good. I pay attention to people.
Yeah,
Wearing
yeah.
clothes. And,
Okay, that's all that matters. Now, would you like to introduce yourself, Kyle?
Sure. My name is Kyle. I'm Korean, but I lived in Hong Kong when I was little, and also I graduated college in Belgium, actually, in Europe. So I
Our
lived
last
there.
guest was from Belgium.
Yes. I
Kaya.
remember.
Kaya's
Yes.
from Belgium.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
So you went to high school in Belgium.
No, I went to college in Belgium actually.
Okay.
So primary school in Hong Kong for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And then I came back to Korea for my middle school and high school, which is kind of an interesting story as well, I think, because I kind of experienced definitely personally like the educational system in the West, and also the the kind of not too flexible and kind of one-way driven education system in Korea.
Yeah.
And then I went back to I went to to Europe for college, so I kind of got to learn and experience the goods and bads of the education system as well. But anyway, that's me a little bit. Now I'm a kind of an entrepreneur. I have a couple of businesses. One being coding academy, I guess, what you call a
Wow.
boot camp. So
Wow,
we're
okay.
one of the only company that teaches programming to adults and help them get jobs in Korea. Not only like foreigners, but also gyopos or like Korean people who prefer to learn coding from a Western kind of philosophy as well. And we also help those people get jobs as well in Korea in IT and tech. So
That is actually really interesting.
Yes, and
'Cause
that's-
I thought you were saying you teach Koreans,
oh.
but it's mostly foreigners.
Mostly foreigners.
Oh,
I mean, we're a very small operation. I mean, we have about 100 students every year, like bigger classes, smaller classes. But the
Okay.
more heavier classes, which are very intensive, from like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for like 4 months straight. Those courses. Some of the students come from like Spain, Brazil, Italy, like everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Not only to learn coding, but also to get a glimpse of Korea and
Of
like
course, yeah.
and they want to take it a little bit more serious, meaning that they do want to like kind of start their careers in Korea as well, not only like travel and eat kimchi and everything.
Yeah, eat kimchi.
Yes. So that's why I was like
Travel
following
and
your
eat
channel
kimchi.
as well, because I
Yeah.
thought I genuinely found it very, very like realistic and like you try to get a very neutral and like objective view about the
Yeah.
goods and bads about the Korea
I
for the
try.
people who
The newcomers, or the people who are trying to come to Korea.
Yes.
This channel is neutral. It's unfiltered.
Yes.
At least unfiltered to the point that I don't want anybody to lose their job or anything.
Yes,
It's
yes,
unfiltered
yes,
to that
yes,
point.
yes.
Let's go back a little
Sure.
bit to when you said you studied abroad in Hong Kong and then came back to Korea. How was and then went to Belgium to
Yes.
study also. Like, what were some differences in the education system in the West versus Korea?
definitely.
And also, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Why did you study abroad?
Oh, no,
in the
yeah.
first place? I think that's also very important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, my dad he worked for this company and they do a lot of international business, so he had opportunities to be like sent and like work in other countries as well. And obviously, when I was younger, I had to follow him. I was like 10 or something like that. 8.
Yeah.
But after I graduated high school in Korea, I did the whole like sushi and the whole Korean SAT, the whole drama thing, and then I actually got into a university in Korea. But then I was given a choice. Like my dad came up after I got the college entrance thing. He was like, "Hey Kyle, by the way, we're moving to Belgium, and do you want to move with me?" And then he actually gave me an option. And then I was like, okay, yeah, let's try that out.
Yeah.
And then I had to go through the whole the European, the whole SAT system and the TOEFL system and everything like that.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, I mean, it's the college, like for example, I remember like when I was studying in Hong Kong, they did a lot of like extracurricular activities, and obviously not only like studying and memorizing and taking lessons and everything like that, but they take into account like the after school like musicals that we had to do. I remember doing like Cats and like Pirates of the what was it? Some other musicals and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Did you do Rent? Rent was a big one in my high school.
Actually, we did Cat. Oh, we did Pirates of Penzance, which is a typical kind of very traditional
Is it Belgium?
English.
Oh,
It's English,
okay.
yes.
'Cause I
Because
was
the
like,
school
I've
that I
never
went
heard
to
this.
was
Yeah.
actually an English school.
Yeah.
So they did all these like after school musicals and like they don't make you, but it suggests
Encourage
people
it, yeah.
encourage students to take a lot of like sports activities and like also themed based like educations as well, and students like participating in a lot of the activities that we do. So it's more like immersive and like more integrated together, and not too much like divided like by subjects and stuff like math, English and
Yeah.
Korean and et cetera, et cetera. And also I remember like they encourage a lot of like leadership and participation and stuff like that into the grading system basically, and give chances for younger students to kind of see, nurture their leadership roles as well in society from a very young age. So I thought that was I didn't know it at that time, but after I came back to Korea, I entered elementary school, like normal Korean elementary school. And I remember once, my English was pretty good for that age.
Yeah.
And back then there was like not anyone who graduated or who went to school abroad that much. This was like 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
So from the
Showing
whole,
your age, isn't it?
involuntarily, but what was it? But the whole even the whole school, there were like maybe 1 or 2 students who have ever studied abroad. So it was very uncommon back then. So even I remember like my English was really good for that age, obviously. So the English teacher actually, I was afraid to like speak in English classes, even though I knew all the answers and everything.
Yeah.
And the teacher actually told me to just basically, he didn't say shut up, but be quiet and just like 잠자든지, sleep in class or whatever, because I wasn't like a brat or anything like that. I didn't like boast myself,
Yeah.
but like I remember after a certain time, I just didn't like say anything in English basically, just
They kind of suppressed your talent then.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And also, I'm not dissing Korea, but it's become way better. But the kind of level of tolerance for difference in Korea is relatively lower than that of the West, I think, because in Korea. Like Koreans say, like the 백이 민족 and everything like that, like like 단일 민족 and everything. So
It's one-
I guess one nation, one blood,
Yeah.
one whatever.
Korean.
The Korean and like
Yeah.
it's our way or the highway basically.
Facts.
That kind of mentality. It's changed a lot, obviously. With the younger generation, they've become much more tolerant towards other cultures.
Yeah.
Not as much as it should be, but we're getting there, I think.
Step by
But
step.
Step by step, yes.
Yeah.
But back then it was very, 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 very. It's like, oh, you're now in Korea, so now you follow our rules. Like,
They're like,
forget
"That
about whatever
English
you
stuff?
learned. Yes.
Keep that English stuff
If
over
you want to
there.
do your English stuff, your whole experience thing, like go back to
Yeah.
wherever you were So,
Yeah.
but that was very, very different as well. So I had a very, very difficult time kind of adjusting back to the Korean educational system, where like in Korea you say I don't know it in English, but the 튀어나온 못이 먼저 박힌다, like the nail that is the highest from where everything else is gets like smashed into first.
Yeah.
So like I had a very difficult time
Oh,
kind of adjusting
wow.
back to the Korean education system, I think. So
Yeah.
that was interesting. And then I did middle school and high school just in normal public Korean schools and everything. Went by the rules and everything like that. Well, I had difficulty going by the rules a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
If any of my friends are watching,
They're like, he's lying.
He's lying.
He was outside the box.
Yes. But then I went to Belgium in Europe, where I learned and kind of experienced quite a lot, actually, because you're from the States, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
From the States, yeah.
But I never lived in the States, but I have a lot of American and Western friends, people from the whatever.
Non-Korean
Yeah,
friends.
non-Korean friends. But as you may know, the European culture is very different from the American culture
Oh,
as
it's
well.
very different, yeah.
Very different.
Very different.
Their tolerance to difference is way not higher, but very different from I guess Americans as well. I think.
I think that too.
Because
but some Europeans might disagree, but I
Yes.
also think that Americans have a bit of more tolerance to difference.
Yes.
Also, Europe is huge.
That
so
is
maybe that's
true.
why.
That is true.
Yeah.
Because obviously Europe itself is a whole continent,
It's
basically.
huge, yeah.
And if you're in France, for example, and you drive a car 4 hours, you're in Germany with different culture, different people,
Everything
different
different.
ethnicity, basically,
Yeah.
and everything. So it's very different, and they have their fights and wars and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But through those struggles and goods and everything, they kind of learn how to live with different people from different ideas and different cultures and ethnicities and stuff like that as
Yeah.
well. So it was amazing, because for me, when I was 20, when I went to college, 서양 사람 is Western people. They're all Western people.
Yeah.
Americans, French,
Facts.
Belgian, Greek.
Yeah.
They're all the same to me.
Westerners.
Westerners, non-Korean, white people or
Yeah,
whatever.
Westerners.
But I got to learn from experience, Spanish people, French people, even Belgian people with French people. They're very, very different from each other. And even within Belgium itself, the Flemish zone and the Wallonian zone, which is the Flemish people, and the Wallonian, the French culture. They hate each other. They say
Yeah.
to themselves, the only time they say they're Belgian is in the World Cup and during wars.
That's the only time
Yes.
they claim the country.
Otherwise, they just say, "Hey, where you from?" They say, "I'm Wallonian,"
Yeah.
or "I'm Flemish."
Okay.
Yes.
Ancient. That's a
It's
history
a tiny
lesson, guys.
country. It's a very small country, but
Yeah.
they have a very interesting
It's
history.
divided.
Yes.
Interesting.
Well, it's not divided like South Korea and North Korea, but they're very, very linguistically, language-wise and
Yeah.
culture-wise, it's very, very different, extremely different. So that was very interesting as well to get to learn about how the world works culturally and politically and everything outside of this small peninsula Korea
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So actually, I really want to kind of not for Koreans to learn that as well, to truly mingle and work closely and play whatever with non-Korean people as well. But they do need to kind of understand the differences and become more oh yes, that's interesting, and I agree to disagree with you. Basically, it's
Yeah.
not oh, I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on why it's so hard for some Koreans to integrate foreigners into their space?
I think the language thing is a big barrier as well. As I say, as I've said, it's getting better and better. I mean, younger Koreans, they do speak a little bit more English compared to people in their 30s or 40s or 50s, I think. Because English education is a huge
Yeah.
industry. That's a whole hour of conversation.
Yeah, facts. Facts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have become much better in English, and also there's way more foreigners being interested in Korea ever since Psy and BTS and whatever Blackpink and everything. So more and more younger foreigners are becoming more interested in Korea, and there's more businesses and there's more international kind of communication and kind of going back and forth in many industries. So I think that's one reason. But going back to your question, I still think Korea. It's a good thing that Korea has its own culture and it's very very strong in media and like movies and stuff. But it's in a way that's also it also can be bad as well because they don't have enough kind of understanding and like as I say tolerance towards other technologies, cultures, and movies, and they have less of an incentive to kind of like forcefully, semi-forcefully to learn about other cultures as well. I think because for example, like even tech-wise, like Korea uses like Naver or like maybe a little bit down,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the rest of the world they use like Google.
Google, yeah.
But having Naver is I guess is a good thing overall. But also it's a little bit of a bad thing as well because they have less exposure to
Yeah.
like non-Korean forms of like technology
Yeah.
basically.
Because it is going to be very limited compared to, not trying to say Naver is worse or better, but I feel like Google is a wider range of things.
Yes.
While Naver, it's very like,
Exactly.
like you can't use Naver Map in America.
No.
Or in Europe.
Yes,
You'd
yes.
use Google Maps usually.
Exactly.
But when people come to Korea, it's like, you need to use Naver Map.
Yes.
If you want to get around, you need to use
to
Naver Map.
download your 공인 인증서 and like all the Korean,
Use Naver Map.
Yes.
Google will not
everything.
help you in Korea.
Yes, Google does
but
not help you.
yeah, that's a great, like that was a great point. I'm still fighting this microphone. Sorry guys, I hit this microphone like at least 2 episodes. I hit the microphone.
You get more excited and you start
do you
like
see how
barging
Kyle's microphone is super far from him? Do you see how close? Mine is super close. That's why I never switch microphones. Anyways, that was a really good point because that is true. Like there is like a limited, there is limited information when it comes to like technology. Also, I've never
Yes.
thought about that.
Yes.
Look at you, Kyle, teaching us something.
Yes. There's always stuff to learn.
That's true. Do you think there's any other reason why there might be that, like, almost, like that? I want to say 거리두기, but I don't know what that is in
Oh.
English. What's 거리두기?
I don't know. Keeping a distance between
Yeah.
people or
Yeah,
like
when it
having
comes
their
to
own
like
space
foreigners
or like
and Koreans, why do you think there is that?
I think
Do you think there's another reason?
I actually kind of learned this interestingly from a Spanish friend that I have in Korea. I invited him to my parents' place once for Chuseok because I wanted him to kind of get an experience of like the Chuseok, like not the rituals, but like
Rituals.
traditional whatever foods and everything like
Ritual
that.
sounds crazy.
But he lived in Korea
Yeah.
for like the past like 2.5 years, and it was his first time like being invited to any
very
like Korean
sweet.
person's place.
Yeah.
Because I mean like. I guess Korea has less of I don't know. I mean, not spacing issues, but we're not really acquainted too much to inviting people to our houses and stuff.
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
especially after you have family and kids and everything like that. Maybe, but I think it's the language and like kind of the difficulty. But to be really honest, I wanted to because I saw some of your contents obviously, and there were a lot of like legitimate like. Negative kind of ideas,
Connotations?
obviously.
Oh, okay, or connotations,
About Korea, which is fine.
Opinions.
Opinions, good and bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It always exists in any culture or country. But for me, I'm sure you feel a similar way as well, being a foreigner in Korea. But for me as well, when I was in less when I was in Hong Kong, but more when I was in Belgium, because I was like doing my college, so I was like 20, 19, 20, early 20s. So as you can see, I have not too much of a problem communicating with like foreigners or English speaking people. However, I did feel kind of less kind of a belonging in that culture as a like a
course.
stranger in a foreign country,
Yeah.
and a limit to how much I can truly like mingle and get to know these people. Although I do understand like a glimpse of their history and their culture and everything, etiquettes and everything like that, I found it very difficult to kind of really get into like their zone basically. So I think it's not only a Korean thing. I think it's about like foreigners living in a foreign country, and I also kind of say this to a lot of some of my friends who are like, oh, I want to go to America and live, kind of just vaguely, oh, I want to live in Europe, I want to live in Paris, I want to live in like, Berlin,
Yeah.
But I do tell them like, being experienced as a foreigner in a foreign country, it's not only good. You're not always happy, and like you don't go to, like, for example, Paris. You don't have like this all every day is not like romantic on the
With
Eiffel
the baguette,
Tower,
the
baguette,
beret,
and
just
like being
walking
invited
around.
to Chanel shows, and like it's not like that. Most of
No.
the days is very very lonely. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like in Belgium when I used to live there for 5 years. Like I had a lot of friends in Belgium and everything. I had no problems there, but like it gets to a point where you feel like really really lonely. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm bored, I
No,
need
like
some more
lonely,
friends. Like really, really
lonely.
lonely.
Yeah.
And like up to a point where like I don't even want to meet my like friends anymore. Like
Oh, wow.
that for a couple, for a period of time.
Yeah.
Basic. But you overcome it, and then But even that's the first time actually. I'm not very religious, but
Mm-hmm.
after spending 3 years in Belgium by myself, I actually went on. I still remember January the 1st, the New Year's Day, to church actually. So I was because I just needed to have some like Korean love, basically,
Yeah,
like
and community.
community, and
Yeah.
like I wanted to speak some Korean to like Korean people. So actually, not being too religious, but like I just went to church on the first day of January,
Yeah.
and kind of needed that kind of Korean like 아줌마's love and like 김치 줄게 가져가 and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's similar with like any foreigner living in any like any country, I think,
Yeah.
as well.
I think you just made a really good point about even foreigners. Well, let me say America. In America, foreigners would probably also get lonely because when I was in college, I always noticed that like during the holidays, we would all just go to our homes, right? But the international students don't have a home there.
Exactly.
So it was like we would leave my international friends in college, and it's like, what are y'all gonna do for the holidays? And it would be like, oh, we'll probably travel, but it's like you're not with family, so it's gonna be sad. Which is the same with me in Korea. In the
Yes.
holidays, I'm not like Chuseok comes around. I'm not
Yes.
like, let me go to my family's house. What family?
Yes, yes,
There's no
yes.
family here.
And everything's like most
Yeah.
things are closed those days. And all
Yes!
the
Oh my
Korean
goodness.
friends, they're busy.
They have their
They have their
families to go
families and they're
to.
like super busy.
Yeah, and I can't be like, can I tag along because that's their family time.
Yes,
Like I
yes.
shouldn't be taking that away. The holidays is when you realize you're by yourself.
Definitely, definitely.
You're like,
it really gets
"Ooh,
cold.
Yes,
Yes, and
that's
you're
when
the
that,
only. Yeah.
that's when that loneliness just sinks in.
It does.
Like the apartment block is like,
It
oh,
does.
only the foreigners are left.
It does. Yes, yes. I
The
still
holidays.
remember.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell like a lot of the friends. I mean, of course it's good, but like it can be really lonely, and you're not gonna get invited to like GQ and Chanel parties every single night, and you're like,
Yeah, I wish.
Yes, you cannot be. It's normally not as glamorous as it sounds.
Right, right.
And even for foreigners who are like thinking of relocating to Korea or like living in Korea as well, it's fun. I mean, it's fun. Going out can be fun and everything, but it hits a height, it hits a top, and then it goes down, and then you're back to normal.
Yeah.
Everything. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Nah, I feel that. Okay.
Yeah. How long have you been living
I
in
feel
Korea
that.
for?
It's been 7 years for me.
7
It's been
years,
long.
wow.
Yeah, my peak was 2 years, and
2
then
years.
after 2 years, it started becoming like just another country for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was like, oh my god, Korea is so exciting. After 2 years, I'm like, there's nothing new anymore,
Yes.
and it kind of went down. But I still love Korea, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just now it's just another country. It's not like this amazing, like romanticized place to me
But
anymore.
It's the same thing. I mean, I guess.
Literally the same thing for
Yeah,
every
yeah,
country.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like even for a Korean living in Korea, it's not like fun every day. It's like I'm just living
Yeah.
life, going to
It's
work at 9
literally-
a.m. and
especially when you have a job.
Yes,
it's
yes,
just
and
another country.
and
Yeah.
getting off work at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and getting some chicken and beer, which is good, obviously.
Amazing, but
Amazing,
still.
yes. And
Yeah.
and then waking up, and then and then
Recycling that schedule again.
everything, and yeah, so
Yeah, when you're a tourist, I think that's when that country is the
Definitely.
most fun.
definitely.
But when you get employed in that country, then you start like living
Yes,
like
yes.
it's a normal life now.
Yeah, yeah.
which is not bad because you have to pay your bills one way or another, innit?
definitely,
But
definitely.
yeah, it just becomes a regular country.
Yeah.
When you went to Belgium, what are some culture shocks that you had?
Culture shock,
Or even in Hong Kong, but you were little, so I'm not sure you would remember Hong
no.
Kong.
Belgium, as I kind of said, I really learned and kind of saw for the first time that not all like non-Korean, like European people are the same.
So
like
cute.
even interestingly, like
Yeah.
the younger guys, because I was young then, like, their fashion is all different.
Yeah.
For example, the French boys, they always have their collars up like this and like, try to have that kind of like, I don't know,
The swag.
jock or swag or like, whatever, like old money look or whatever that means. Or and like the Germans, they have a different kind of way of wearing their clothes. And even for the even for the girls, like the Eastern European girls and the Western European girls and like the Greeks and Italians and versus the the Scandinavian countries and everything.
All different.
Because I went to a very international kind of college in Belgium as well. So we had like students from like literally like 120 countries or something like that.
Oh, wow, that's a
we
lot.
had like students from it was like one of those international colleges.
Yeah.
From in a bigger college.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had like students from like I had this like not roommate, like classmate from Iceland and like Vietnam and everybody.
Iceland.
But I remember once like one of my, this is off topic a little
Yeah.
bit, but this was like, as I said, like maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But back then, I remember this Belgian girl. This was how low Korea was back then compared to nowadays. Because I remember her like asking me. I was sitting next to her, and she was Belgian. She's like, "Hey, Kyle, okay, the North Korean and South Korean question that pops all the time. So I'm not even gonna mention that.
Yeah.
So, but then she asked me like, Kyle, like, do you go to schools? Do you travel on boats in Korea? I was like, what the hell is this girl talking about? What boats?
Wow.
And then I was talking to her, and then she had the vision of, in Vietnam and Thailand, they have the boat, like the markets, the little hats and everything.
yeah.
That's the image that she had of Korea, basically. So I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, like, that was kind of that was how, not low, but how it was like hidden and like
it wasn't discovered.
It wasn't
in the
discovered
media,
yet. Nobody knew
yeah.
too much about anything in Korea back then. But yeah, I mean nowadays,
Ooh.
Korea.
How do you feel about how popular Korea has been? Because you've seen, obviously, because you're Korean, you've seen when Korea was not really discovered in the media, where now Korea has blown up in the media.
Definitely.
What do you think about that as a Korean?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was born I was born 20 years too late, too young, too early.
The popularity wasn't there yet.
Exactly. I sometimes just like make fun of not just not criticize, but make fun of like just how. Especially men, because I'm a guy, so I'm heterosexual, so I'm just comparing to guys with girls. But anyway, back then I remember talking to my friends, like the level of popularity is like, okay, like the whole, like, I don't know, white boys, black boys,
White
whatever,
folk,
blah blah blah, and then like us Koreans were like bottom
Like
of the food chain.
Asians were always
like we're like down there, we're like below, like I don't know, monkeys or something. I'm not just kidding. We're very, very low.
I can say it, Kyle said it.
I can say it.
Yeah, you can, because you're Korean, you can say it.
So we were very, very low in the food chain in terms of like popularity in general. But I also worked for this English academy called Pagoda, which is an academy for older, like adults basically.
Yeah.
So I taught English there maybe 10 years ago for a good 5 years. And then I talked to my students who are like all college students back then, and they're like, they have their fan group basically where they when they go abroad, like some girls, they do like Asian or Korean guys, and that popularity, I think it's getting higher. And
it's peaking. It's like huge
it is.
now. Korean
Even for
men
me,
are
even for me when I go on like business or social trips to like China or Hong Kong or wherever, and I go clubbing or I go to bars and stuff, I can definitely feel myself. It's like, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Korea. Oh, we love Korea and like, oh, Psy and whatever, and like it's really easier to start a conversation and everything, and that gives you a lot of advantage, not only in like going out and meeting people, but also definitely in business as well.
because it's gonna start a conversation.
Definitely,
for you.
100%.
That's crazy.
Yes.
So there are positives to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at you, Kyle, benefiting from being Korean 20 years later.
20 years later. Yes.
20 years too late, but 20 years
yes,
later.
yes.
Yeah, there definitely is that hype now. Do you feel like that hype might drop someday?
Yeah, I mean, if there's ups, there's always downs. But really interestingly, I always also talk to my friends about like politics and like whatever culture in general. But I'm always telling them, like the only thing that's pulling us down, like Koreans, is politics.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yes,
God,
because all the other like like fashion, like music, and like
Food,
dramas,
the
food,
the culture in
movies.
general,
Culture in
yeah.
general is like just booming, and
Korean
like
culture is up
they're
there,
doing
yeah.
like way more job than like whatever government officials or presidents do. Because the president didn't do anything for me, getting a lead in any of my
Yeah.
international businesses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, actually, I just make fun that Blackpink and like Big Bang or like BTS, they should like get our tax money basically for being our social ambassadors.
Yeah, that's true. They are basically social
They are.
ambassadors.
They
'Cause
are. Yes.
You know what? I'll let you take this. I was gonna say something about the president, but I
Oh,
like
yeah,
to
yeah.
keep my visa. Okay, I'm not Korean, and I would love to keep my visa, and I don't want to
Yes.
take it away. So
Yes.
I'll ask Kyle this
Yes.
question,
I-
because the Korean political climate right
Yes,
now
yes, yes.
is terrible.
Terrible.
Like it's
Crazy.
not good at all,
Yes.
especially from even an outsider looking in. It's just not going well. How has that been for you? Like navigating the political climate?
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
It's 2024 December, and the last time martial law was initiated in Korea, the land of whatever culture and everything, as we just said, was like 45 years ago. That's like 50 years ago. Martial law was ever initiated.
Yeah.
That was like. Like a couple of weeks ago, as some of you may know, I mean, things are kind of getting back to normal, I'd say, because the president the government, the Congress has decided to initiate the process of impeachment. So he's not impeached yet. He has a chance to defend himself in the next 6 month time, but that will probably be executed. Well, not like done in
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 months. So he'll be either impeached or reinstated back to office within like 3 to 6 months. Let's say 2 to 6 months.
Oh snap! I didn't know that part.
No,
I thought
so-
he was impeached. Period.
No, 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 no. So the
Oh.
Congress with the 204 votes, they basically said, okay, let's start the hearing.
Yeah.
Let's hear your idea,
Yeah.
and let's put this to trial, basically. And out of the 6 now, but
Yeah.
9 maximum of the Supreme judges.
Yeah.
After they investigate everything, and the president will have a chance to, defend himself as well. It seems very likely that he will be impeached because it's hard evidence that he
Yeah.
he had military personnel
It was pretty
invade
obvious.
the National Congress, which is 100% illegal. But
Yeah.
but still he has a chance to defend himself.
Okay, let's go back
yeah.
a little bit. Where were you
Yes.
when martial
Yes.
law was declared?
So
And what was your reaction?
yes. So actually, I had a business/social dinner with one Spanish person, friend, and an Australian person.
Yeah.
The Australian person is an entrepreneur, is a startup CEO in Korea, which I want to talk about a little bit more later
we
as
have
well.
time. We have time,
Yes.
Kyle. Yeah.
So I was having drinks with one Austrian guy and a Spanish guy, and it was like 10:30 or something like that, and we
was
were doing
late.
our icha. We were doing like champagnes and like stuff like that. It was a fun time. But then he showed me his phone. He's like, Kyle, look at this. Like it's martial law, and I was like, bro, like you're kidding.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then I checked Naver, which is the Korean Google again, and then there's all these like breaking news about martial law is initiated. People are like going to the National Congress, and congressmen are like coming to National Congress because the only way to stop the martial law legally is for the Congress, for more than 200 congressmen to say this is illegal and like do the declaration or something
Yeah.
in National Congress.
Yeah.
So that's why all the national
trying to
congressmen
go.
exactly go in.
And they were being stopped, right?
They're being stopped because that is the only way that in the initiations processes
Yeah.
that anybody that illegally can like halt or stop or say this is illegal.
Oh,
So that's why the president or those team, the military, were ordered to stop people, congressmen, from entering Congress. So
Okay.
if things were delayed or if things went south, basically, and those 200 congressmen weren't able to enter, like physically into Congress, the Congress hall, things might have been very, very different right now. Like
That
there's
is
no media, there's
crazy.
no shooting this right now.
Yeah.
NBC, all the
We would all be
legendary
at home
media,
right
all,
now.
Yeah, we'll be all be
Definitely
home.
home.
The
Yeah.
stock market will be closed from the day after, so everything financially will be stopped.
Wow.
The dollar ratio with the dollar and the Korean won
Which is already
very high.
The dollar's up right now, guys.
That's
good
good
for
for
me,
you.
bad for y'all. I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Like, I love Korea, but yes, the dollar. I did not know that.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I feel like I'm getting like a personal history
Yeah.
lessons. I'm getting smart right now. I remember when martial
Yeah.
law was declared.
Mhm.
First of all, like, it sounds very obvious what martial law is, but I had to Google it because I was like, something about the military, but I had to Google it to check.
Sure.
And I just started laughing because I was like, Korea is a developed
Yeah.
nation. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking
Yeah.
about martial
Yeah.
law?
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Yes, yes.
Like,
Didn't-
the Korea I've been in for the last 7 years? What?
Seriously, I mean, like Korea is one of the top 10 to 20
Yes.
like richest countries in the world, and even as I said, is in the pinnacle of like in culture, music, and food and everything like that. And it's just really sad that one
Yeah.
person's decision had to draw back the level of democracy, not only in Korea, like genuinely, but also internationally as well, because that determines amazingly a lot to do with the trust of the country and like
Yes.
people's like decisions and everything like that. For example, like it's a small example, but one of the Costco branches that was supposed to open, like that was supposed to start the initiation of the construction, everything somewhere in like Gwangju or something like that. They said, okay, let's talk about it a little bit more and
Oh,
wait for this to go
wow.
down or up, because
Yeah.
the level of uncertainty is way high for them to make an executive decision and like
Yeah.
invest all that money into
Yeah.
Korea. So there's like actual like tangible evidences and like
Oh, another one that I've heard. This is a fact that I cannot confirm or deny. I'm saying it's a fact because I've heard it from someone inside. Anyways,
Anyway.
the military was also the American military, the United
Yes.
States government
Yes,
was very
yes.
hands off on
Yes,
this.
yes.
So there was like almost a security, what is
Warning?
it called? Not a warning. Like Korea was very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
South Korea was very vulnerable at that point because the American government didn't know what was going on. Like it
Yes,
was a
yes.
very sudden announcement.
Yes, yes.
So
It
now the
happened-
government is telling their military like, yo, y'all got to back up. Y'all got to
Yeah.
stay in the base. Y'all can't
Yeah.
leave the base.
Yeah.
And that becomes a security issue on the
Definitely.
South Korean people,
Definitely,
you know?
definitely.
So that's, I don't know, like what was he thinking? I just want to be in his head and be like, what were you thinking?
He was like way too cornered and probably maybe a little bit tipsy as well from the drink last night because he drinks a lot.
Maybe him and his wife were just cheersing and what should we do, baby? Because I heard she's a problem too.
Yes, there was a small like cartoon article in the news the day after, like the president's the first lady.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, oppa, like oppa, if you're bored, like play some games or something like that." And martial law in Korea, you pronounce it keom. So it's like
Keom.
a word different from game.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh, I told you to play games,
Games.
not to keom, not to declare
the martial
martial law." Like so there's a funny but not too funny like article.
Not
like
funny
that.
now. Well,
Yes.
now it's kind of.
Now it's kind of funny.
Kinda
Yes.
funny.
Yeah. But it could have gone very,
It would have
very,
gone
very,
left.
very, very,
Yeah,
nasty,
and
very
people
bad.
would have started taking flights back to their homes.
Definitely,
Like it would have been
definitely,
really. I think that's the moment I realized a lot of South Koreans do not like their president
No.
because the protests. By the way, I do have to say, South Koreans are the most peaceful
They
protesters I've ever seen in my
Yes,
life.
yes.
So peaceful, so respectful. Nobody's fighting it. Well, so
Yes.
far from what I've seen, nobody's fighting anyone.
Yes.
No pew pews. Like
No.
just peaceful.
I
With a
mean,
candle and everything.
Yeah. And the interesting thing this time was, I mean, I didn't go to the protests and everything.
Yeah.
But I read on the news and saw on the news as well that they were putting like K-pop music on and
Yes,
everything.
I saw
So they were kind of making, of course they were very serious about the
Yeah.
idea and everything, but they didn't want to get stuck into that, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to, as you said, like take this too violent or something like that. They wanted to make this into a quote unquote like more of a festival than like a serious protest with like
Yeah.
weapons and stuff like that, or like
Yeah.
so actually it was kind and what I read also was there was a lot of like younger people actually in their 20s and even their teens like participating this time as well. So
I also did see an article saying there were people paying for coffee and
Yes,
food for the
yes.
protesters.
yes.
And I was just like,
yeah.
I wish I was Korean at that moment because the solidarity with all the Koreans was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, as a foreigner, we're not allowed to. It's actually very illegal for us to go to any protest.
I read that
Like,
as well.
I was not
I
even
read that as
gonna.
well.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Because
you
I
can
saw
get your
this
visa
article-
taken.
Because for business, and personally, I have a lot of foreign friends and
Yeah.
non-Korean friends in Korea, and I also saw that news where the English teachers were like, protesting for better like wages and like
Yeah.
yes, better wages and better benefits. I'm not better, but equal benefits.
Equal,
and
yeah.
equal like everything, because some, not all, but some like the English academies do take advantage of
Yes.
the disbalance in information and like the
Yes.
lack of like information on the foreigner side, which is obviously like So I saw that news as well, and I thought that could be an interesting topic for anybody to.
There's some protests that as a foreign, especially when it comes because I'm in the entertainment industry, when they protest like the unfairness in the entertainment industry, that I would like to go, but on my visa.
And not only the visa, but also the social kind of
Jesus.
blacklist that foreign entertainers could be on. For
Yes.
example, I don't the Sam.
Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah.
Yes. For example, I think people could have just laughed at it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to judge, but anyway, I know that he's like
Kind of like publicly shamed now, which is
and like
crazy.
and nobody no like broadcasting company or program has the guts to like actually hire him for any shows because it's too much of a risk.
Yeah,
I
once
guess.
you're like banned from the public,
Yeah.
it's very hard to go back.
Yes.
But y'all are not gonna see me in no news channel talking about the Korean press. I will duck the camera so quick. I like my visa. I like my life here. They will kick you out ASAP, no Rocky,
Yes,
if you
yes.
talk about politics, especially on
Yes,
TV.
yes.
Going back to
Yeah.
the political side,
Yeah.
we keep jumping. Going back to politics, you said that that's one thing that pushes Korea back. Park Geun-hye was another person that was.
Were you here?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you
was
were
in
here.
Yonsei. Yeah,
So
I was in Yonsei at that.
So
and
you
I studied
experienced
political.
2 impeachments in the 7 years.
Oh, I'm a baddie. Oh my God, look
Wow.
at I'm experiencing 2 impeachments of this. Yes, and one was a woman and one is a man. Equal
Yes,
rights for
equal
everyone.
rights.
For everyone. I was studying in Yonsei at that time, and my major was political science.
Ah, okay.
Of all things, I studied political science at
Okay.
that moment,
Okay.
and we had Trump in America,
Okay.
and then we had Park Geun-hye in Korea.
Ah.
I was just going through it.
And now you're a model.
Yes, now I'm a model.
Yeah, so
but
we never know where life.
facts. I mean, I still have my resume, but
Yes,
facts.
yes.
It's a lot. I feel like Korea has gone through a lot politically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never thought Korea would be the country that I would see impeaching presidents.
Yeah. I think that's a lot to do with the polarization of politics and society. But that's not only in Korea. I think with
That's a lot of countries.
That's a lot of countries.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Because especially with media and like because even 7 years ago, 10 years ago, there was not this many YouTube channels and people like you having the platform to
Yeah.
express everybody's ideas. It was
Yes.
like basically like in Korea, like in the States, like CNN, CNBC, and whatever, ABC,
Fox maybe, and that's it.
So that's 4, like so people and depending on how they gear and like kind of tone it out, they could get more objective views about and more neutral views about everything. But now that everybody has the right, and that's not wrong,
Yeah.
everybody has a platform to express their voices, be it extreme or neutral. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
And as you know, more extreme news and more extreme stuff and like gets more hits basically.
Yes.
Because if I talk about peace and everything's happy and everything, nobody watches it. Like
Yeah.
the woman next door bought a dog. So what? I'm not going to
like
click
we
that.
don't care,
Like
yeah.
like she killed a dog and like
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to click that one. So it's to do with media as well. It's not only to do with Korea, I think. But sadly, of course, I'm not saying that's bad, but that's obviously good. Everybody should have a chance to express their voices, but people shouldn't be punished. But the general public should have enough they should be enoughly like politically or like socially enriched or what's the word? Kaemong, enlightened
Yeah.
enough to make like logical and like good decisions by themselves as well. But anyway, so the polarization of media because of politics because of media has played a big role in the polarization that's going on nowadays in Korean politics with the left wing and the right wing,
Yeah.
kind of always fighting with each other,
Yeah.
and like always, going, okay, we have to go right, we have to go left, and like,
There's no
so there's
middle
no
ground.
middle
Yeah.
ground, and nobody's going forward. Basically, everybody's fighting about we should go right, we should go left. It's like, no, we should go forward.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Anyway, so that's what
I can see that.
And just to go on another thing, so yeah, so on that note, from 7 years ago when Park Geun-hye was impeached, I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't really care about politics that much. But 7 years ago, I got very interested in politics because it got me curious. Like, they're supposed to be the smart people and the educated people who are making those decisions for us on behalf of us.
Yeah.
But then she got impeached, and like there was this like other lady who's making all the decisions and everything.
Yes, I heard that. I was like, what?
Yes, the whole Choi Soon-sil thing.
And then for the current one, they're saying the wife is making all
The wife is making all the decisions.
Yeah.
So that got me interested, and I joined. And then I was on Facebook back then, and then there was this like ad on like this politics school. So and then I participated, and then I took their course, like a 6-month course, and then it's still going on, and I became one of the founding members of the school itself as well. I started participating. So so now I'm one of the board members for a school called Youth Politics School in Korea, 청년 정치학교.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and I don't earn any money off of it. It's just like basically
It's like a volunteer.
as a volunteer
thing?
kind of thing.
Yeah.
For my time, but yeah, we try to have people as enlightened and educated as much as possible for anybody to make like better decisions, about Korea for now. Korea, yeah. So yeah, that's
It's like
another
really
hobby that I'm doing.
It's very important to know politics in your country.
Yeah,
I feel like
definitely.
those people are basically in charge of your life.
Definitely,
Like
definitely,
literally in charge of your life. Yeah.
And that, yeah.
Like for me, Korean politics is a little hard to follow because one, I'm not Korean. Two, I can't vote. So even if I disagree on
less
a
initiative.
candidate,
Yes.
it's like nobody cares about my opinion, And also another thing is I can always leave Korea. I feel like Koreans need to be interested in Korean politics because they're in Korea, right? So I find it hard to follow Korean politics. But when things like this pop off, I'm on Google like, what's happening? What's going on? I need to know. But Korean politics is very interesting, but it's politics in general, and this is coming from somebody who majored in it. It's a demon, okay? Politics is a demon.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot to learn. So it's nice that you guys are being able to teach. Is it youth that you're teaching?
Yes.
Or?
So all our students are from like 18 to like I think the max age is like 35.
Oh, okay.
So they're younger.
Yeah.
And we've been running the school. I was the first batch class president, so that's
Oh,
how I got into
wow.
the management side of it.
Yeah.
But now we're recruiting our batch number 9. So it's been 9 years since we've been running the show.
Oh, wow.
And I think we're the longest like lasting
Yeah.
political school in Korea, I think.
So you basically teach people about Korean politics? Like-
Not only about mainly about Korean politics, but also about like democracy itself and like the Korean like political system and like how like elections work and like the Korean like history and everything like that. But we're very, very neutral. We have like people coming from the right wing, people coming from the left wing.
Okay.
So we're not a part of any like political party. Actually, we started off from a political party, but we kind of brought it out, and then now we're our own entity basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's actually really cool.
it's really
Just
interesting.
stay
It's a very,
neutral.
very interesting hobby of mine.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back a little bit
Sure.
again to you being Korean, but not really Korean,
Yes,
Korean,
yes,
right?
yes.
How has it been like finding your identity in Korea
That is very
as
interesting.
a Korean that's not
Yes,
lived in Korea his
yes.
whole life?
Actually, when you contacted me on Instagram, and you asked me if I'm Kyopo,
Yeah.
because I'm sure you know by now, but the 유학생 category, so people like me, Koreans who spent like X amount of years in like in a foreign country,
Yeah.
and the Kyopos
Yeah.
are the kind of the vibe is very different. Like
Yeah.
they have their like kind of differences as well.
There is a difference.
There is
yes.
a difference.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah. But so I remember because I went to Yonsei as well for one semester study abroad. But there were a lot of like kyopos there as well. And when I was living in Belgium, there were a lot of like Belgian Koreans as well. Because I met this Korean Belgian girl. So she's ethnically Korean and her mom and dad is Korean, but her nationality is Belgian. And we were talking about like this kind of topic, and then something that she said was like really like kind of like caught my attention, and like it's still with me, because she told me like, oh Kyle, you know, you're Korean, I envy you, blah blah blah. It's like, well, there's nothing to envy, you're Korean as well.
Oh, okay.
But then she's like, no, it's a little different. Like if you when you go to Incheon, when you arrive at Incheon airport, you can say, oh, I'm home, like I'm home. But for her, she has no airport that she can land, and she feels 100% home. Because every time, you know, she's Belgian, she has a Belgian passport. She was like born in Belgium or something like that.
Yeah.
But still, she's not Belgian.
Right.
She's an Asian girl
Yeah.
in Belgium, in the perspective of Belgians, basically.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is nothing to do with Belgium itself. It's just to you know, but yeah. But so she doesn't have that like 100% like, you know, sense of belonging to any country. So
Right.
that was a little bit interesting for me. I also remember that there was this other lady who was here, who she was talking about like hugging people, like you
Yeah.
know, getting a sense of that, you know, like mother love.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that can be true as well. So anyway, so gyopos can be a little like not confused, but like I know a lot of gyopos, especially in their adolescence and teenagers, who go through a lot of like kind of difficulties and like trying to like kind of trying to find who they are and
Their
everything,
identity, yeah.
finding their self identity. And I don't remember the contents, but I remember like in Yonsei, why I talked about Yonsei was there was actually one course about Kyopohak, about like studies
What?
of Kyopo. Yes.
There's such a study.
Yes, there was one
That's
course
so
on
cool.
it. So
Okay.
I remember taking like one or two classes of it, but then I dropped out. But anyway, I remember seeing the name. So it's a whole
Yeah.
like study on it, I think,
Oh wow!
which can be interesting. Yeah.
Listen, I'm not even guilty, but I would want to know. I'm like, can non-Koreans take that class? That's such a cool study because it is going to be different, obviously.
Obviously,
Like,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think you found your identity? This
Oh,
might
yeah,
be a
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
intrusive
yes.
question.
No,
I'm
yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of felt similarly in my early 20s when I was like, you know, living here and living abroad. Like, oh, you know, I'm Korean, but I also have experienced like what it is like and the mentality and the culture and everything abroad. So I wasn't like 100% Korean. So I remember in the early 20s, like, you know, I had a little bit of difficulty kind of finding where I belong, and not where I belong, but where I can excel in and where I want to be, basically. But you know, now time has passed quite a lot, and you know, being what I am is what I am, I guess, and you know,
Can't change that now.
Yeah, you can't change that now, and I don't need to, and I don't want to like
Hey,
change too much
yes,
about
Kyle.
what I am. So, and you know, for everybody out there, I mean, like, you know, there's no need to change who you are to fit into any kind of culture. I mean, like, you know, you're just who you are, and like, you know, if
Yeah.
you bring differences to the table, so be it. And if that person doesn't agree with you, like, don't spend time with them.
Gotta say bye-bye to them.
Exactly.
Do you feel fully accepted in Korea?
Now, yes. I mean, yes. Now that Korea is a little bit more, as I said, tolerant and understanding of other cultures, there's less amount of people, at least in my circle, saying like, oh, you know, it's the Korean way or the highway. There's less people like kind of having that kind of a mentality, or at least like expressing that in public, I think,
Yeah.
nowadays.
Do you still see some differences in how you are and how the normal Korean is?
Yeah, yeah. In like cultures and like etiquettes and like smaller things, there are. It's getting better, but for example, like I felt that, for example, like racial kind of discrimination, like that can be, or that we shouldn't be, but that can be expressed to another person. For example, again, it's getting better, but I still know that a lot of the older people like don't think that you know, expressing like racism is anything bad.
They don't think it's racism.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
like, you know, they say the Korean version of the N word to like black people.
Yeah, and
they're like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, they're like, 감독 그냥 감독인데요? You just they're like, that's racist.
I wasn't gonna say that, but like,
Okay, I'll say it for you.
Exactly.
깜둥이.
Exactly.
And then we're just like, and they're like, what?
Yes. Yes.
Ajumas have no chill.
Exactly. He's like, they're Korean gangsters right there.
No
Yeah.
chill. And you're just like, that's racist. And
Yes.
they're like, no, it's not. Like, what do
Yes.
you mean? Yeah, they don't see it as racist.
Yeah,
For
they
some
oh,
people.
좋아서 하는 거야. It's like,
Oh,
I
I hate-
express it as because I
hate-
like it. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
hate when they say
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I've had a lot for the one that I always hear that they think is a compliment is when they say, I'm not too dark. Because if I was darker, does that mean you would hate me? Like, what is that? Some Korean older
Yeah,
women,
yeah.
it's always been women because I don't really have a reason to be talking about my skin color to Korean men. But like Korean women will say that with a straight face, and I'm just sitting there like, ma'am,
Yeah.
that's racist. But that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
It's not seen as racist or
No.
ignorant. It's just
Yeah.
like you said, 좋아서 말하는 거예요.
Yes. I'm just saying the N word
Yeah.
to you because out of love,
Yes.
you know, it's like, yeah.
That's not out of love. It is changing though. Like
Yeah.
Kyle has said many
Yeah.
times, it is getting better. But girl, back in the day,
Yeah.
it used to be crazy out here.